Ira Epstein with your financial market wrap-up, and this wrap-up is for the evening of Tuesday, the 23rd of August, 2022, and we're about 7:10 p.m. Central Time. Well, there's still some selling pressure residual from the day's action in the S&P and some of the other indices. Metals have gotten quiet. Copper markets trying to probe through the 370 zone. The dollar down a bit as most currencies gaining a little bit. But remember, you were over the upper Bollinger Band in the dollar, so getting a pullback makes all the sense in the world. On the energy sector, you were down pretty good today in nat gas. You got up, and then all of a sudden we heard from the Freeport terminal that instead of opening in October and starting their exports again, they export about 16% of our total exports in the United States out of that terminal. Things are still not right. It'll be sometime in November. That means more supply for us going into the fall. That's a bit bearish, and the market broke down. You're getting a bounce from that tonight. A bit of a rally in the bonds and the notes. And in the grain market, pay heed, because you've got two tours going on. The crop tours are going on, and they're telling us in all parts of the growing area, what do the crops look like? This is when you really get an idea of where you're at, what it is. People will tally these numbers, and next week we'll have a pretty good idea as to what we're dealing with. Obviously, you can lose things in harvest. Weather can change everything, but this will be very close to what they're estimating the size of crops. And I like that it's independent, not government done. That gives you a better idea. When we look at the S&P on a weekly basis, you can see that you got over that 18-week average, and you're falling a little bit. You're down 2.5% thereabouts for the week. I wouldn't give you a penny for how the week's going to finish up, because as the Jackson Hole Symposium opens up on Thursday and we get to Fed Chair Powell on Friday's speech at 9 in the morning, anything can happen. If the market keeps falling, the odds favor you'll get a rally afterwards. Why? How many times are you going to keep discounting the same thing? So a relief rally can step in. If you're up in front of that, you can get a further break. It can go any which way. As you can see, you've pulled back. You're coming down into old support area here versus the 4,100 area. It'll be harder to get through that area now that you're down there. The trend is down in the sense that the swing line study, which is this line that connects the day's highs and lows. I teach it in my full charting course if you've not taken it. And I did this, I created it, my son's 38. I think I created it when he was 13. And I created this study because I wanted him to be able to look at any chart and tell me, is the market in a bullish or bearish trend? I teach you how to draw it by hand. That way you can either use your charting software and put it in there and create it, or you can draw it by hand. I use it every day. There is no chart I look at that doesn't have it on it. To me, it's number one of importance. Tells me the trend, and then I filter from the swing line. Does it have the bias up, the momentum up? Is the risk too big associated with the trend? It's the mainstay. The second thing, when I'm looking at moving averages, if I have the trend down, which I did in this market. Let's see if I can bring that to you. This will show you the importance of this. Trend is down, but the bias is up. Why is bias up? One of the filters on the swing line is if you're over the 18-day moving average of closes, the bias is up. So I can see, just knowing nothing else, I'm looking for major resistance at the 200-day average of closes. Not a little bit, major. Can I emphasize that enough? On the break, I'm looking for support because it's already been here at the 100 and the 18. Support in these two numbers if the market continues with the break that it can do. So as we're looking at it, this is pretty much where you're at. It's fitting right into my game plan, okay? That's the first thing. The next thing I'm looking at, where's the Bollinger Bands, because you're only going to settle outside of that band 5% of the time. So for me, hit that band, I want my money off the table. If it's embedded, if I've got one of these, no, I can buy it, take some of the money off, and keep playing it until it loses that reading. Then I'm coming out. These are all in the courses that I have. I go over this every day with you. If you don't believe it by now, what is wrong with you? Nothing works all the time. You're looking for things that work a lot. I'll stay with the word a lot, okay? I'm here with you every day. You tell me if they don't work, and we've gone over this. So I was telling you, and I went with you here 10 days ago. I said, I'm looking for a major top to form between the 200-day average and the upper Bollinger Band, simply because that is such an important resistance zone. In the past, that acted this way too. Why shouldn't I think it'll do that again? Now, I'd have to rethink everything if you went from these break lows through that high again. I'd be scratching my head. I'm not scratching it though. That's past tense. As it was going there, that was my statement. And I know some people probably thank me for that. You didn't get up to those numbers in the NASDAQ, but you lost the bullish embedded reading right here when the red line got under 79. You did get up to them in the Dow. You're right in the zone, and look at how much it's given up. I can see that I'm looking for support between the 18, the 100, and the Bollinger Band. Resistance has now changed. It's the 18 to the 200-day average. Again, if you get over these highs on a close, I'm going to scratch my head and go back to the drawing board. The same thing in the Russell. So my game plan was there. Everything was executed properly. I'm a happy camper. The VIX. In the VIX, I was telling traders that I thought the pros were going short puts right here to cover at the 18, the red line, the 18-day average. It is such a high probability trade. If you go back on your charts and you look at it over time, you'll see it. Nothing works 100% of the time, but it's a high probability. It's the same from up here. When the market gets to that number, it's often an area where the traders, the big boys, will write calls looking to get back down to the 18-day average. Coming there. Now, I believe you always decide, hey, are you going to go through a big event? And that becomes the question. I think Jackson Hole's a big event. I don't think it'll stop the pros. I think they'll do what they want to do. A lot of people just want to be in the market all the time. In the 30-year bond, all you can be is bearish. This is just riding the lower Bollinger Band. It's turning into that gorilla glue trade where it marries that number and it doesn't walk away from it, and it develops an embedded reading and it just carries the day. 10-year note, similar action, embedded reading. 5-year, you'll see the same thing. Dollar index, you got up, you closed very strong the past few days over the upper Bollinger Band and in the top quadrants of some of these days. So for me, that was a breakout on this day with this. These 2 days made the breakout. Top quadrants, higher highs, higher closes. So until you take out this low, I think major support, I'm keeping that in my head now, major league support on pullbacks in the market. And if to develop the embedded reading, I want to jump all over the market, but I don't want to do it in front of Fed Chair Powell. Can I be clearer than that? I'll be late to this party. In the euro, same thing, but bearish. You've married yourself to the Bollinger Band, trying to develop the bearish embedded reading there. British pound, trying to develop the bearish reading. Break out to the downside. There's your 2 days. So big rallies here, probably selling opportunities. I'm still trying to figure out when Miss Truss, and I believe she'll become the next prime minister, how are they going to give tax breaks as the economy's falling into an abyss and they're talking 18% inflation in the UK next year? How do you give a tax break? Is this Turkey? Is the Erdogan idea spreading where the way to beat inflation is inflate the market with money? I pray to God that's not it. In Bitcoin, you're fighting at the lower band, just where you would expect that to be. Now, it's probably time for us to also get ready to move eventually to the September, so be ready for that. It'll happen right away. The differential between Brent and WTI, well, with the threat by the Saudis, it might narrow that a little bit. It wouldn't surprise me. You're kicking the market up. If you need me to show you that Bollinger Band 100-day average should be your major resistance point, there's something wrong. You haven't listened to me enough. Expect that. Trend up, overbought, that is your resistance point. WTI, overbought, trend up, big resistance points. But the first one's the Bollinger Band. That's where the pros would love to be able to take something off the table. I told you, I'm not in love with gasoline. We're getting too close to Labor Day. People aren't going to drive that much. That's what it is. Do you know how many days in a row gasoline has fallen? I saw it today on the news. 70 every day, straight down. That's hard to believe. I'm not talking futures. I'm talking Gas Buddy and all that. I didn't believe it, but I read it, okay? I haven't gone and looked at the data. 70, wow. So since the 4th of July, we peaked. Remember I told you what the service station owners were going to do, regardless of what they were buying it for. And I think one of you wrote me nicely. It was a 59 or 60 cent spread between the wholesale and the retail prices. They had to keep that. They're entitled to make that money. I know you don't want to hear that maybe, but they're entitled. And they did, and they're not going to pick it up right now. It's too late. It's not going to happen in the wholesale level. Nat gas, I think I went through that with you when I told you what happened with Freeport. So you got up to the $10 level and you got thrown back. But more important, what number is this all happening against? The upper Bollinger Band, you're not embedded. The pros are coming out, not in, at that number, in my humble opinion. The word is humble, and I am at times humble. Not all the time, but at times. Now, if you trade futures or ETFs, starting at 5:30 in the morning, I'm your guy. Why? Because I'm recording, and by 6, it's posted typically, my update. I've looked at Asia. Remember, I get up 3:34 in the morning. So if I've looked at Asia, I've looked at Europe, I've written, and you will see the headlines and everything that went on there and the big reports that are coming out in America. And then you and I are going to review 40 charts. Now, there is a scroll bar on the bottom of this chart. If you pull it, it lights up and it tells you what section you're in, because these are 15 to 20 minute long videos by design. I'm covering 40 futures charts, 40 stock ETF spider charts. I do some rotation. You will see weekly, daily. On the weekend, it's really devoted to the weekly charts. So 6 days a week, you're getting this. I cover all these sectors. And again, those sectors, including stocks, in the ETF spider video. So I rotate them. Right now I'm on the video, but Apple, Twitter, Tesla, I cover the gauntlet. How do you get this? I hit the wrong button there. It's simple. You go to our website at iraepstein.com, and under the word research, it's there. Another way, I'll give you the cheater's way. Follow me, take your cursor, move it right up over here, any of this area. You'll see an icon pop, click it, sign up, and away you go. I can't make it easier than that. I'm Ira Epstein, waiting to see you in the morning. Take care.